Welcome to One on One. I'm Greg Bassey, your host from the Salisbury Independent newspaper. It's a big day here at PAC 14. They're all big, and it's big today because my friend Mike Dunn is here, and he's CEO of the Greater Salisbury Committee, and they're doing so many great things that I never thought that they would tackle, and I just want to get him in here and remind all of us what this group is doing. Thank you, Mike, for being here.
It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you very much.
Now, once again, you snagged some headlines here recently. You've done something that, as a newspaper editor, I dreamed of having a forum like this for years. Could never, ever figure out a way to either pay for it or to get people to answer my calls. You're going to have the three governors of Delaware, Maryland, and Virginia in Salisbury at one time on one stage. Tell me about this.
Well, it's a conversation with the governors of Delmarva, and we are beyond thrilled and proud and excited. As you know, GSC started a conversation with series 2 years ago. And we got Maryland Governor Hogan and Maryland Comptroller Francho. We, GSC, thought that their efforts to promote bipartisanship were something that we wanted to stand behind, and so we invited them, and they came. We did it at headquarters live.
And hold that point for just a second, because in that year, that was during the General Assembly when they were here, and they actually went back to Annapolis and continued to conduct themselves as partners. The things they said on the stage in Salisbury that day, they actually did.
Yeah. And they still are.
And they still are.
Yeah.
And I feel like I was like there. I'm sure it had been developing in the process, certainly, because they're on the Board of Public Works together. But I felt like the harmony that I saw that day is actually still going on at the State House now, something that I was able to see here in Salisbury.
And the part that's so cool about that is they are really trying to live and breathe that. It doesn't mean that it always works. It doesn't mean, goodness knows, Comptroller Francho has some Democratic allies throwing darts his way relative to trying to take over some of the aspects of his office. And Governor Hogan catches a little bit of flack from his Republicans for hanging out with Peter Francho.
Right.
But look, as we stand in day whatever of the federal shutdown, we think that the Greater Salisbury Committee believes that bipartisanship and working together is the way that government is supposed to happen. So we did that in year one.
Huge success.
Huge
thank you on behalf of the community. Thank you for that.
Thank you. And then year two, which was last year, we invited also a first. We got Maryland's U.S. Senators Ben Cardin and Chris Van Hollen together on the same stage. PAC 14 was there, and you were the moderator because I had bronchitis. And I thank you for that. Also a standing room only crowd. So this year...
And then again, the reason that's significant in all the little politics is that Cardin is the senior senator, and he doesn't like to share a stage with the junior one so much, and the junior one doesn't like to be shown up by the senior one so much. So to get those egos aside and get them on the stage together and have them explain what they're thinking about when they're voting, because down here everyone's like, oh, they're liberals, they're hopeless. Yeah. Well, if you listen to what they're saying and what their backgrounds are and who they're representing and what they're thinking, what they're up against with the executive form of government that's going on in Washington now, fascinating to hear their thought processes.
And that's a point. Notice these are called conversations.
Right.
These are not town halls. They're not forums. They're not debates. They're an opportunity to sit just like this and have conversation. Right. So then this year...
And the audience goes there and they learn.
They listen.
Listen and learn. Yeah.
So this year I came up with the idea, hey, let's shoot for the governors of Delmarva. And it was so interesting and still remains. It's February the 11th, by the way. It is open to the public. It's at Holloway Hall. God willing, I'll be the moderator, and you're my backup, as always.
Am I the backup? Oh, gosh.
So, one of the reporters, and we've been getting great coverage about this, and we're thrilled, and we're fully expecting, a sold-out house, if you will. One of the reporters, we talked for 10 minutes or so. They hung up, and about 10 minutes later, they called back. And they said, we were just talking in the newsroom. And I forgot to, we're all just sitting around and we want to know the answer to the following. So why do you think they're doing it? And I was truly stunned at the question, just paused, and I said, well, I guess because we asked. And so, it's the 51-year history of the Greater Salisbury Committee, and it's these two previous iterations. They see the governors, and I'm going to ask them this question, by the way, but I think they look at it and go, you know what? This is a benign opportunity to sit with colleague to colleague, peer to peer, in front of our, audience and the citizens of 3 states, and just do it. So we are really excited about February the 11th. We think it has never, let me take that back. We've been asking people like you and others. We don't think this has ever happened before.
No, it's never happened.
We don't know that for fact
Yeah.
or for certain, but we don't think this has ever happened
No,
before.
in fact, I haven't told you, I'm doing a lot of research on this for you to figure out. There have been times when they've been in proximity at governors' conferences.
Absolutely.
There's a famous one from like 1980 where Harry Hughes refused to sit next to the governor of Virginia, who his name is escaping me, because they were mad about an oyster issue.
Wow.
Where they were seated next to each other at a governor's conference, and Harry walked out because he was so mad at the Virginia government.
Hoping that doesn't happen on February the 11th, and I don't think
And they've always played off of each other. So the Maryland governors have always said, well, Delaware's environmental regulations are so lax, and that's why they have an advantage in the poultry industry, and we're not going to be like that. And they point those fingers. You see the Delaware governor recently, actually the previous governor, making a deal to get Purdue up there, which made our previous Maryland governor unhappy. And then there seems to be poultry issues between Delaware and Maryland, bay issues between Virginia and Maryland.
Sure.
But the Virginia governor and the Maryland governor just recently co-authored an op-ed that was in the Washington Post with concerns about global warming and the effect on the bay. So I've never seen anything like that.
And one of the things that has happened, and again, you've been around, I've been around long enough. You think about the Delmarva Peninsula 25 years ago, and it's way different than it is now. Right now, you can make a case that from Bangor, Maine to Key West, Florida, this is it. This is the last little bastion of
pasture,
of areas of opportunity. And we, as a peninsula, you throw in the beaches, you throw in Dover Air Force Base, you throw in NASA Wallops, you throw in these cool towns like Salisbury and Berlin and Cambridge and Easton and Dover and Milford and Chincoteague. There's a lot to offer on the Delmarva Peninsula. And I think that the days when famously then Governor William Donald Schaefer made a fairly disparaging remark about the Eastern Shore, I don't think any of the Delmarva governors look at the Eastern Shore of Virginia, Eastern Shore of Maryland, or the lower 2/3 of Delaware today the way they might have looked at it 25 years ago. So this is an exciting opportunity to talk about the economic vitality, the uniqueness of the region, and obviously they must agree on some level because they'll be here, and we're really looking forward to it.
Yeah, really just unbelievable.
Yeah, and that's been the sense. There is a tremendous amount of buzz. Somebody, your paper, the Salisbury Independent, thank you very much for your front page. A good friend of ours, Joe Ollinger, I ran into him at Acorn Market, and he was there having lunch with someone, introduced me, looked at your paper, and he goes, this guy in this organization, they don't just get one governor here, they got all 3 governors coming. So Joe smiled, and but there's been tremendous buzz in the Greater Salisbury Committee. It is 51 years of success. We were yesterday in Annapolis for something unrelated. And we're very proud to say that because of the things that we've been doing for so many years, that ideas like getting 3 governors together is not that far-fetched. So we're honored and privileged, and asking everybody who wants to come to join us. I also want to share that this will not just be issues. We're going to sit there and have conversation with them. We're going to try to, what's the toughest part of their day? What keeps them up at night? Do they know one another? How well do they know one another? So we're not just going to go down ag and poultry in the bay, and we're going to get to know these gentlemen and give them the opportunity to kind of show their constituents who they are as people.
And they're 3 fascinating guys in terms of where they came from and how they got to where they are.
Yeah.
They all three prove that anybody can be governor, basically.
No, I mean, Ralph Northam is the second governor ever from the Eastern Shore of Virginia.
Right.
Last one was in the 1800s. Larry Hogan had run a few times for office, but not successfully in his early days, went on to the business track. And, John Carney, Ivy League educated at Dartmouth, smart guy, went to work for a guy named Joe Biden a long time ago, became his chief of staff, and clearly had an interest in public policy. And
He was always the man, not at the table, but the people behind the guys at the table.
Yeah, and now he's the guy.
He's the guy. He found a track. It's just amazing.
Yeah, it is. So we're really excited.
Yeah, the one thing with the missing person in the room will be the governor of Pennsylvania. So, of course, with all the Bay problems, that's the guy they point to.
Yeah, that might get a little bit...
they want to talk about the Susquehanna and all that.
We're going to have a big poster on the stage.
Susquehanna,
question mark.
You might have to have 4 next time.
Yeah, if Pennsylvania was part of the Delmarva Peninsula, he'd be here, but they're not. So we'll stick with what we got.
You did a thing a couple of years ago, the transformational leadership.
Yeah. Transformational Community Leadership Series. Just call it TCL.
Right.
Yeah.
And I should know this because I was sort of involved.
And you are again.
And this was an exercise to try to find young potential leaders in the community and teach them about what goes on, how this place ticks.
Yeah.
And you're bringing it back again.
We are, and that was our plan all along. We thought at first we might do this yearly, and again, you've been the facilitator of it, and we'll do so again this year. But then we thought probably every couple of years would be a good idea. And the goal is just what you said, is there's a lot of next generation people in and around the Salisbury-Wycomico County area. And armed with information and armed with knowledge of how does the airport function, what's the role of our schools, what's the role of our detention center, what's the role of Purdue Farms. We kind of every third Thursday for about 6 months, a cohort of about 25 people, we get on a bus and we go somewhere first. Then we bring back everybody to the Greater Salisbury Committee Conference Room, where we have a great panel discussion led by you, where we have experts in the field to kind of share their knowledge. And, out of that cohort, the first one from 2 years ago, there came and emerged a county councilman. That's Josh Hastings.
That's right, yeah.
From Wycomico County. Jessica Eisman is a member of the newly formed Wycomico County Education Foundation. And Wiltsy Piero, a young executive at Purdue, I was able to because I was impressed with her, and I was the then chairman of the board of Coastal Hospice. She's now sitting on the board of Coastal Hospice. So the experiment worked in kind of raising the bar about their next level knowledge. And so we're looking for 25 good young men and women, and this is an opportunity. If you have any thoughts about it, if you'd like to be part of it, we're spreading the word via email, but don't hesitate to contact me at the Greater Salisbury Committee. If you're a business owner and you've got a next generation person, if you're a business owner or somebody and, wow, I'd like to learn more, then feel free to join us because we think it's a pretty good thing.
I think what was most important about it was the guests, the panelists. And when you think about having access to those people and those decision makers, it's fascinating. And I just imagined people going home and saying, at the dinner table, well, the superintendent told me today that this is what's going on in the schools. And I talked to the guy who's head of the school's building committee, and this is why the Bennett Middle cafeteria got built too small. Just all the things you learn about the community. Being able to ask questions to the judges and the police chief and the state's attorney. Yeah. People don't get to do that.
And 2 points to that. One of the people, and I won't reveal who, she and her fiance were beginning their first home search. And after she learned more about water and sewer and pipes, she suddenly went home to her fiance, soon to be husband, and said, we're not going to live in where there's a septic system.
Right.
That's not to say that, that's kind of a personal choice. This is not beating up on septic systems. But she learned enough about water and sewer during that day that it impacted her. The second one that stands out for me, and I think for you too, when you're in the locker room at Salisbury University and Coach Jim Berkman,
amazing,
the man who's the winningest lacrosse coach in history, he's won 12 national championships, and he's talking about leadership and what it takes and teamwork and
You
commitment.
better listen.
Man, that was impressive. We were in the belly of the beast, and there was Coach Berkman, talking not about lacrosse, not about national championships, but talking about how you build a team and how you succeed and how you pick one another up and how you lead. So it's powerful stuff.
And for me, not to brag, and I don't know how other people feel about it, but one of my proudest moments was I summoned the courage to ask him about his near fatal heart attack experience.
Yeah.
And in a jock way, he could have just dismissed it and you told me to mind my own business. But he had a philosophical discussion that went with that. That's lived with me ever since.
That's right.
I mean, if I had been in that room as a cohort, it would have been life altering.
Yeah.
Because I was like listening to him, but trying to think of the next question to ask.
Yeah.
Amazing the way he talked about that and how fragile life is.
Yeah.
And even when you do everything right, God can come take you in a second.
That's right. I mean, so you get those kinds of insights at these panel discussions. And so we're starting it off with an information meeting in February. And then we'll start on that third Thursday in March and continue through for the next 6 months. So it's an exciting opportunity. It's a knockoff of Leadership Maryland and Shore Leadership, but it's not as structured, as you know, and that's on purpose. We're not here to necessarily teach leadership and the principles of leadership. We're here to expose these emerging leaders in the things within this community that matter, that kind of move the ball, if you will. It might sound trite, boring, or whatever to go learn about the wastewater treatment plant. But when you think about how growth in and around this community is going to happen over the next quarter century, it's because we've got pipes and we have access and we have an underutilized asset. So we're looking forward to it, and we're thrilled that you're going to be participating again. And this is, I should say, in collaboration with Salisbury University, as is our Governors of Delmarva event. So GSE's mantra these days, and I think it's not just ours, it's collaboration and cooperation. And so we're thrilled to be kind of doing that and doing that model in the community.
Yeah, the other two in that, well, there's several, but ones that have stuck with me, we were supposed to have this huge fight about Beaver Run construction. We took 30, 40 people through there. They all saw Beaver Run. Everyone, after they saw it, came out thinking, we need a new school.
That's right.
No one can actually walk through there and not think we need a new school. So,
and now we're getting a new school.
Well, and in terms of a public argument, all you have to do is have some exposure, and then you changes your paradigm, certainly. And of course, the one I still love are the people out at the water plant. Love those people out there because we have the best water in Maryland. It's graded every year, and they've put all this pressure on themselves to keep repeating as having the best water in Maryland. So they go to work every morning to make sure the people in Salisbury have the best water in Maryland.
Pride of ownership.
And you don't even think about that when you open a faucet. But there's someone on the other side of that who's working their butt off to make sure it's right for you.
That's right. Yeah, 8 times a day, or 18 times a day, they're measuring water levels and doing things to make sure that our water is safe and clean and good tasting. So it's
just amazing. So I'm a business leader. I've got a promotable. I got someone I want to keep around, someone who's going to improve my business. Is that who I send to this, or how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, if you identify within your organization a 20-something, a 30-something that you think is probably has some interest in being engaged in the community, has some interest in raising and starting a family here, is on the edge of trying to figure out, well, do I want to really stay here or do I want to go back to Allentown? Bring them here, because I think that they will see the community in a different way. To your point, they'll get the opportunity. When Randy Day, the president and CEO of our largest employer on Delmarva, gets on the bus with you to tour the plant and then comes back and is a panelist, that's pretty powerful. When Chief Barbara Duncan gets on, the panel and talks to you, when Judge Matt Massarello, you get a different feel for the community. So that's who we're looking for. Any organizations, companies, individuals that want to take their knowledge of Salisbury and Wicomico to a next level, this is your opportunity.
Yeah. And when is it again?
It starts in late February, February the 21st. There's a organizational meeting here at Salisbury University, and then it'll start on the third Thursdays of each month. So it starts on whatever that third Thursday of March is.
You were in Annapolis yesterday, presented our delegation with a photo from the Folk Festival.
Yeah.
The folk festival that people like me said that'll never work.
Yeah.
Again, a tremendous success, and only more success on the horizon.
Yeah, we presented that iconic picture that was taken at about 6:05 right in front of the courthouse. Maryland Governor Hogan center cut in the picture, surrounded by 600 or 700 of his friends,
Right.
and that was the start of it. And that march then went down to the stage by PRMC. So we presented that photo in a framed photo to the governor yesterday and to Delegate Carl Anderton. And Carl now has a seat on the Appropriations Committee. That's a new assignment for him, a significant assignment for him and for us. With that comes a larger office in how they divvy up offices in Annapolis. And so we took one to Delegate Anderton.
So he needs more pictures.
He needs more pictures, and now he's got this one front and center in his office. So, you know, planning is ongoing intensely for the National Folk Festival of 2019. If Mother Nature cooperates, we have every reason to believe that it will be, if you will, twice as good as it was last year. And last year, even with Mother Nature doing her thing, it was pretty spectacular.
Yeah, and great progress on East Main Street right now.
Those guys are just, you know, the first phase down toward Route 13, well, they ran into some environmental issues for obvious reasons.
Right.
There used to be gas stations and things down there, but you step on the side of the courthouse right now and, you know, they are working it hard to get that portion of Main Street up and ready in time for the National Folk Festival.
Our superintendent of schools, Dr. Donna Hanlon, will be giving her second big State of the School speech at Parkside High School this Monday in a lunch event. And you have worked closely with her. It's sort of a chamber-sponsored event, but you've worked closely with the chamber, with Dr. Hanlon, with this nutty idea that maybe we need to educate our kids better.
Maybe we need to invest in education better. All credit to, I'll tell you what, Bill Chambers, when he came across the bay from Calvert County and came to work at the Salisbury Area Chamber of Commerce, one of the things that many of us didn't know, he used to have a seat on the Calvert County Board of Education. So Bill came armed and loaded and looked at our maintenance of effort results and saw that we were funding not even above maintenance of effort, and that was our history here in Wicomico County. And last year, truly as part of that TCL group, we had citizens who were all TCL members go in front of the county council in a very peaceful way and make the argument, make the point. Donna Hanlon, to her credit, has put a business plan together. It's called Imagine 2022. The second State of the Schools address will be this Monday. We are ready again to ask for further maintenance of effort funding. And last year, for the first time in about a dozen years, the Wicomico County government raised maintenance of effort $500,000 above where it was meant to be. That's a good thing. We have reason to believe that that will continue. So all credit to Dr. Hanlon, to Bill Chambers, to the TCL, to GSC, our other partners, the Community Foundation, the United Way of the Eastern Shore. People came together to say that education matters, and investment in education is key to our ability to retain and recruit and attract and keep a good workforce.
One thing I looked up, and I think this is significant, and it hasn't been part of the argument, and I need to write about it somehow, but the last time the maintenance of effort got added to, it was one of those things where all the budget stuff was ended, and surprise, we've got some extra money. What are we going to do with it? Well, we'll give it to the schools. Whereas this time, throughout the budget process, it was like, wait a minute, we got to make sure we've got some money for the schools at the end of this thing.
Yeah.
So it was top of mind instead of just like extra. The whole mindset was different than it was a dozen years ago.
Well, and you give, credit to Dr. Hanlon for, putting a plan together. She's the last person who would say, just give education more money. That's not the answer, and she knows that. So she put together a business plan, and I think of my friend County Council member Mark Kilmer, who says, well, let me see outcomes. He wants to see outcomes. Let me see a plan. because no one in today's environment that I'm aware of says, let's just throw money at the problem. So Dr. Hanlon correctly laid out a plan, and to your point, it's now top of mind going into a budget session, and it's not a, oh, here's a couple of extra $100,000, let's throw that into education.
I saw something I had not realized. I've been on jury duty down in Worcester County for the month, so I've had a lot of time to read their local weekly newspapers in the jury room. And one of the stories was they're under pressure to raise taxes to spend more on schools because they've got such a huge taxable base in Worcester County. And you hear the Wycomico politicians all the time saying, well, if we had all that, property like they have in Ocean City, we could solve all the education problems, just write a check and stuff like that. But we don't, we're a poor county. So they are like the second highest contributor. About 80% of our budget goes to education in Worcester County. But you look at the list, 23, Wycomico County, next to last. Baltimore City was last. Then Wycomico, the last county, about 60%. But really it's not that much because they also count the community college and the library system. So it's less than 60. There's so much more. All the other counties are giving way much more of their county dollars to education.
This cause that we began again last year, this is not a 1-year argument or a 2-year. We really believe and hope, and with the election of people like Bill McCain and Josh Hastings, who ran on an education investment platform, if you will, we think that we've been able to successfully get the message out there. And we have constant discussions, good discussions, vibrant discussions with our elected officials. And so everybody's at least everybody's talking and communicating.
Right. That's the key.
Which brings us back.
They got to keep talking to the county executive. He's very
exactly
amenable in terms of capital spending.
Yes, he is.
He really is, but he's not as much
Been
in
very
the budget
supportive.
thing.
There's 3 new CIP projects coming forward, Mardella, Beaver Run, and I forget the third. So no, County Executive Culver, he gets the capital side. It's a tough political fight on the investing side, if you will, but he's listening. We appreciate that. He's engaging in dialogue with the superintendent, with people like Bill Chambers and me and you and the county council. So we'll see how it goes.
And we encourage people to go Monday to see the superintendent.
Yes.
It's a lunch event, so there's a charge, but the lunch is being prepared by the kids there at Bennett.
Yeah, and that's
at
a
the
great
Parkside,
thing.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Who are the master chefs, are really good.
In that CTE program.
Right.
And it's, again, if you want to see the direction that the superintendent wants to take the schools, there's no better way than to hear those words come out of her mouth. So we're looking forward to it.
Okay, recap. Give me your pitch for going to see these governor guys.
Well, ask yourself, when have you ever had the opportunity to see the 3 governors of the Delmarva Peninsula in one place on Delmarva? And if you care at all, and if you want to show those governors that we care, take a seat. Let them see that holding this historic, unprecedented event is rewarded, and that there are people from all 3 states that are there to listen to their governors. And I can't help but think that the governors will walk away impressed and that the audience members will walk away impressed. So they're here. There's no excuse not, there's excuses, of course. But
Holloway Hall, huge
Holloway
room.
Hall, huge room, huge crowd. We will also have potentially a room set aside for overflow in case we get to that point. But the other thing is to arrive at that campus early. Get there by 12:15.
I'm going to put a parking map in the paper
Absolutely,
so
yes.
everyone knows where to go.
Come early because there are students there
Yes.
as well. So
It's their thing. We're guests.
But the SU Police Department, there will be no tickets issued that
Right.
day for parking in the wrong place. So just come
Except
early.
the handicap place.
Obviously.
Yes.
But yeah, February the 11th, it begins at 1 o'clock, and we will be having conversation from 1 until 2:15. We encourage everyone to come to Salisbury University to start looking for parking at around 12:15. And you're going to want to head to the Holloway Hall Auditorium, which is right there on Camden Avenue. Biggest, most grandest stage in town for, we think, the biggest, most grand thing that we've had in quite some time.
He's Mike Dunn. He's CEO of the Greater Salisbury Committee. A lot going on in our town. Thrilled to have him here. Thanks for being here, Mike.
My pleasure. Thank you, Greg.
I'm Greg Bassett from the Salisbury Independent Newspaper. Another edition of One on One right here on Pack 14.
First Shore Federal is proud to support PAC 14 and On One. We'd encourage every business to support PAC 14 and pick a program and support it, and let's make a difference.